Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
God
Welcome to Complete Darkness. My name is Ozzy V, the world's first and only combination trivia host and professional wrestling announcer of Chilean descent. Once again, Ozzy V. Also with me on this program, first in the Northern California Bay Area, world's famous juggler, Greg Larson. How you doing, Greg?
Man, I am good. I am ready for Lost Skeleton. Life's going to be fantastic after last week. So,
oh my god,
it's going to be great. It's going to be great.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, also with us, Flesh Wound producer Todd. Todd, how you doing?
Yeah, chilling.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're recording this on December 11th to get ahead of some holiday business, and it was on January 2nd that we made the decision to go live. Information that was revealed on that show that we do not know at this time of this recording is the outcome of the...
We know.
It just
what happened? What happened in the fourth quarter against Baker Mayfield? And granted,
can I
Ozzy, do you remember when I said you might lose to our backup quarterback? You might lose to our third string quarterback.
Listen. I understand, and I've said this multiple times, that as a Raider fan, I am still a realist, and I'm not like saying like, oh, the Raiders are going to the Super. No, I'm not one of those guys. However, there's still a shred of one of these things that says, listen, it was a short week. The next matchup they have after this is against New England. I can imagine Josh McDaniels wants all his pieces to be healthy when he's going against Bill Belichick. That's what I'm telling myself. Now, I don't know the result of that game because we're recording this so early. Now, if it happens to be that Josh McDaniels does defeat the Patriots and with a respectable amount of points, maybe that was the case. Or it could be completely the opposite, but I don't know that right now for sure. Factually, I don't know that for sure. Anything can still happen. Greg, you just mentioned your third string quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, right?
Yeah.
So anything can happen. But the reason I'm holding my trophy is because at this time of this recording, I don't know if I'm still champion or not. So
to pull back the curtain, we could have shot this two ways, but we're not. If it went the other way, we'd have an alternate version, but why waste the time?
Why waste the time, and why waste the time talking about it? I'm sure to the individual listening or watching that doesn't give a crap about football. So this week we are reviewing and discussing Monty Python and the Holy Grail, released on April 27th, 1975, rated PG, with a runtime of 91 minutes. Todd, do you have a trailer available?
I do.
Let's roll it.
Once in a lifetime, there comes a motion picture which changes the whole history of motion pictures. A picture so stunning in its effect, so vast in its impact, that it profoundly affects the lives of all who see it. One such film is...
Very good, thank you. Yes, thank you. Next, please.
Once in a lifetime, there comes a motion picture which changes the whole history of motion pictures.
Yes, thank you. Next.
Once in a lifetime!
Oh, for goodness sake, let us do it. Once in a lifetime, there comes a motion picture which changes the whole history of motion pictures. Now, from the people who brought you the 39th anniversary re-release of Monty Python and the Holy Grail,
and are already at work on the 41st anniversary re-release of Monty Python and the Holy Grail,
comes the long-awaited 40th anniversary re-release of Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it.
back in the cinemas in this special new edition.
I told them we already got one.
With up to 25% more peril.
No, it's too perilous.
We are the knights who say, neat.
Bring your friends.
Carry coconut shells.
Wear fancy dress.
This isn't my nose, it's a false one.
You could even sing along if you like.
Stop that. You're not going into a song while I'm here.
See it again for the first time on the big screen.
Your mother was a hamster and your father smelt of elderberry.
Or if you've never seen it, see it now for the first time.
Or see it for the first time since you last saw it.
Or if you're very old or very ill, see it for what may be the last time.
I think I could pull through, sir.
Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Back in cinemas for the first time since the last time.
God be praised.
That was the trailer for Monty Python and the Holy Grail, written by Graham Chapman, John Cleese, Eric Idle, directed by Terry Gilliam and Terry Jones, starring practically all the names that I just mentioned. Graham Chapman, John Cleese, Eric Idle. Funny thing about Terry Gilliam is he plays Patsy, and I guess I should save that for the favorite lines moment, but it is amusing to see him basically in every scene holding the coconuts when he is the director of the entire film. So initial thoughts on this, jumping into it. My senior year of high school, the high school I was at had these types of like, oh, you could take Bible literature or you could take modern drama, right? But there are popular classes that you could take for your English credit. So I didn't get into any of these classes. So I had English 4, right? English 4 with Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown had broken up his course of English 4, and one of these courses, or one of these curriculums rather, was in British humor. And in British humor, he had us watch Monty Python and the Holy Grail in class. Of course, he forgot at what point one scene was happening, and he ran to the VCR to skim through it, which was hilarious after the fact to see what that scene was. But I just wanted to shout out there because I thought I was very appreciative of my high school, like senior teacher, English teacher, finding a way to show us Monty Python and the Holy Grail, because that's what it totally felt like. Is like, this guy loves this movie, and I think he just wanted to figure out a way to make us kids watch it.
You know, this movie, when growing up and like seeing it, a lot of my friends thought this was like one of the greatest movies of all time. You know, all the people around me with like similar sense of humor and such, and I just like I didn't get it, you know, and so it was weird, you know, having such fanfare about it, and then, you know, not really understanding the humor. But years later, now that my sense of humor has changed quite a bit, and I understand a little bit more of what's going on within this, even though it's pretty basic and slapstick. Like, it's, you know, this kind of comedy is not necessarily for everybody, but like now the ridiculousness, like I was so happy that I've finally watched this, like, as like later in my years, where I can really appreciate everything about this movie. So this was like, I have to say thank you for bringing this one up, because this has been a lot of fun to go back to.
Todd?
All right, so here's the thing.
Dang it,
I don't want to
Todd.
say
2 weeks in
I
a
don't
row.
want to. I don't want to say I've never
Technically
watched.
not.
Yeah, technically not. Last week, yeah. I think I watched it before. I don't want to say it was my first time, because I know in the 90s I watched like all of them, but my memory has zero memory of this one. So there's a very good chance I might have been having some 40s and don't remember. So I'm going to treat this as the first time I've watched it. And
fair.
I will
yeah,
say
it did work for me. There was one part that I couldn't stop laughing, and I'll tell you like this: I may have been enhanced. I was just like, "When's this shit get funny?"
well, we'll get to that momentarily, and we'll help you figure out if that was the case. But Greg, to your point of not really understanding what the fanfare, or not understanding it, its humor, or really getting it as well as what appeared to be other people were getting it as. I think there had to be something that had to have been done was like their parents or their older brother or older sister showed them this movie and they saw them reacting the way they react and that like, oh, I have to be laughing. And the only reason I say that is because whenever somebody would bring that up, I'd be like, oh, then you must have seen Airplane. And they'd be like, what's that? And it's like, huh, Spaceballs? No, I've never seen it. Like, okay. So this humor is right along those same lines. And that's what drives me crazy is I would categorize this with these types of Airplane and Spaceballs and Mel Brooks, all those. They have that same kind of slapstick, great humor, right? So when I was a teenager and people would bring this up and I was like, well, yeah, but you've seen History of the World, right? And they'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's like, why do you see this as so great and grand, but you're not seeking out movies of the similar type? And that's what maybe lead to the conclusion, perhaps it's an older brother or a parent or a teacher. It's like, hey, watch this movie. And they don't know which other movies to seek out.
I do remember a brief period of time, this is long past now, though back in those days, that it was like you were cool because you liked Monty Python and all that stuff, which there was something about it where people like, I don't know, they thought their humor was better than others because they like that. And that's always stuck with me. So I don't know if that's kind of like, well, yeah.
One thing I did bring up to somebody is when we brought up Holy Grail, I was like, how come nobody brings up Life of Brian or Flying Circus? Yeah, and like they'd be like, when I mentioned Flying Circus, they wouldn't know what I was talking about.
Right.
So then it's like, okay, something's not right. Like maybe you saw it on TV and like, maybe it's the only of its kind. I don't know. But Greg, to your sense, there was always some kind of weird aura with this that I think if you didn't get it, maybe there was a party that really wanted to get it. I guess, but I'm not. I'm only gauging this because of those experiences I had where I could bring up any other comedy and they would not know what I was talking. Naked Gun, and they wouldn't know what I was talking about.
Now, I do have to say, the friends of mine that really enjoyed this film, their dads were all in like jam bands and smoked a lot of pot. So I think they had like good influence.
Sure.
So
yeah, it's I really wanted to like this because I know and I like Meaning of Life's one of my favorites my favorite from them. Spoiler if we cover. But
we'll get there.
I'm sure. I don't know how much I'm looking forward to the next one right now, but I'll say this now. Eric Idle was great in European Vacation. That's probably the first movie I know from anyone from Monty Python.
He was fantastic in Honey, I Shrunk the Audience.
I did not watch that out of protest because I was still mad they got rid of Captain EO. Same reason I never rode the rocket rods because mother effers took my people mover away. Sorry, rant.
No, that's fine. The rocket rods were one of the most terrible things to ride if you were wearing shorts and riding in the front. That was probably one of the worst experiences in my life. Because
it worked. It actually worked.
Yeah, it worked. Like, and the only time you didn't want it to work is when you're sitting in the front with shorts on. You're like, I've been waiting for this ride to open, and then all of a sudden, like, my nuts are gonna freeze off. This is a bad idea. It was hot earlier today when I thought shorts would be a good idea, but now it's 9 o'clock and cold.
Well,
I got in line for this at 4 o'clock. I thought this would be fine. 5 hours later, here I am.
And it closed 3 times while you're in line.
That's why it took 5 hours long.
Jesus.
Sorry. Away from rocket rods. How did we get to rocket rods, Todd? You brought it up because
you brought up Honey, I Shrunk the Audience because of Eric Idle.
That's right. Okay.
And that brought up Captain EO, which brought up People Movies.
I was trying to figure out
rocket rods.
I was trying to figure out where to get back on track here. Eric Idle again. Honey, I Shrunk the Audience. If anybody's familiar there, but going into these favorite moments, I have 2 because these 2. There's a ton of moments that had me laugh out loud, but it was these 2 specifically that put it on another level. So I'm going to go first because I'd be worried that one of these would be taken. And I'm going to go with animals being used as ranged weaponry. That put me over the top, and I was losing my everything was, and I know that might sound cruel, but when you see it, there's a whole nother level of just silliness to the entire thing that just puts it like when you're already over the top to just go even further over the top.
Look, Hot Shots did it. Hot Shots Part 2, I think it was, had animal weaponry, and each time it's still funny. So, there's nothing wrong with a little animal weaponry. But
maybe that explains my dislike for both properties.
Are you a PETA guy, Todd? Is that what's going on?
Oh
here?
yeah, absolutely. I'll go watch Cannibal Holocaust later.
Yeah, there you go. So I've said this for a few different movies. Starting a movie to set the tone is fundamental. When someone does it right and wonderfully, it feels great. I don't think I've ever seen the beginning of this film. And those opening credits really got me. Like, I went and I grabbed my remote to turn the subtitles off. And then I read it and was like, damn it, that's good.
I was getting so pissed. Like, why is this on subtitles?
So, yeah, like that, I was like, well played. And then when the firing happened and every bit of that opening, yes, every bit of that was fantastic. And I don't think I've ever seen that bit before. So yeah, it was amazing. And it really, like any good movie should, set the tone for what to expect on the level of ridiculous that this movie went to.
Right.
I have a favorite moment, and this one legitimately made me laugh out loud. It was the bit where make sure he doesn't leave with the two guards. Make sure he doesn't leave. And it's basically a who's on first routine, but it just works so well. And I couldn't stop laughing at that.
Absolutely. Now, if there was one real flaw that I had to take away from this, would be that the ending seems a little abrupt. I mean, and I'm not going to be like, it doesn't make sense. Like, it's very ridiculous, and it's kind of like expected, but it just almost is like, oh, because aside from it being just a silly comedy farce, you still were vested in these characters and still wanted to see them obtain their objective.
Right.
So seeing things how they happen, and I remember thinking this when I sitting there in that high school class, thinking like, oh, that ending. I mean, like, it's funny, but just kind of, it seems like it cuts everything so abruptly and just kind of like, well, that's it. And like, I get it. And sure, like, you're building up to that gag, but it just seemed kind of like, I wish there was another way it could have ended, to be honest.
Although, wouldn't you think that, like, don't you feel like it's kind of similar to how, like, a lot of the Flying Circus sketches kind of end?
That's fair. However, at the same time, this is a movie, whereas a sketch, this
right.
is, I mean, but at the same time, with the sketch, you're vested in like what, 5, 7, 10 minutes the most.
Right.
I've been with these guys for 91 minutes, or at this point, 85.
At least It's Pat had a real ending.
What's that?
So at least It's Pat had a real ending. Can't wait to cover that.
It's Pat.
No, at least the movie It's Pat, the SNL sketch.
Oh, okay.
The movie It's Pat actually had an ending. So there you go. That one must be 5 stars.
I had no idea there was an It's Pat movie.
Okay. Immediately going in the next vote is It's Pat.
No.
You know what? I will
film Ozzy
Romano as a counterpoint because I hate that movie. Oh damn it! I'm gonna cut that out so they don't know I hate it, so they don't vote for it. Yeah, I know. I meant
I
I
still
love it.
Todd
remember
hates
seeing.
Corky Romano. I'm just putting it back in, so you have to do extra
Damn
work
it.
or it's left in.
It's you know what? It's just gonna be taped, and I'm just gonna be like dubbing myself. I love Corky Romano.
Okay, did we haven't done ratings yet? Have we?
No, we have not.
Okay.
No.
Because of that ending, that's what's going into is that ending does kind of leave an odd taste in my mouth. So for that, I just knock it off by a half point and give it a 4.5. At this point, I think as the sense of humor has matured and like being able to catch things more specifically on the dialogue realm of just kind of, I think fits better now than it did back then.
Gotcha. You know,
Greg?
and that's a fair, like, I can't argue that, but for me personally, like, I laughed harder than I have in a long time. Part because this
Definitely
is
more
the
than
first.
Ghostbusters.
Hell yes. So, but that was like a month ago, like a few.
I
weeks
know.
ago
I'm
at
sorry.
this
Bringing up
point.
old stuff.
So, but yeah, but I can't help but give it a 5 because there were just too many great bits and moments that like caught me off guard, and like the guy with the arrow, and he's like, no, I feel I'll pull through, it'll be all right. Like it's just those little like that dry sense of humor is really my cup of tea these days. So yeah, I'm giving it a 5.
Todd?
All right. Well, I'm gonna give it the same thing Dan gives a date, 2.5.
Wow. Jeez.
It was
That's
average to me.
harsh. It could be a little bit better than average. Like I if you said 3.5 or 3 even, I'd be like
3 would be
okay. But 2.5 is like that's a little.
Wait, hold on, Ozzy. I
really
just want to
extreme.
double check. Are you saying that's harsh towards the movie or harsh towards Dan? I just want to.
Obviously the movie. Was that even a question?
I thought that was implied.
Okay,
All right.
fair enough. Fair enough.
Hi, Dan.
What's up,
He's
bud?
probably going off in the comments.
Yeah.
Dan said just message him for confirmation.
So you okay? 2.5.
Yeah.
Any reasoning just behind that? Or you're just feeling sour.
I told like I did. The only time I laughed was that one stretch. I mean, I was like, okay, I don't know if I went in with my expectations too high because I was looking forward to watching. I was just kind of like, huh. Then we got to the bit I brought up, and I couldn't stop laughing. Then I went back to, I was like, huh, okay. So that bit alone got
the whole llama credit thing at the beginning. Nothing.
Yeah, I mean, it was cute, but I wasn't laughing out loud.
I think what happened is the strobing gave Todd a little bit of a stroke, so he wasn't able to enjoy it until later. So
did you guys notice Chileans were involved, or Chilean?
Well,
I actually didn't write the name of it down, but similar to llamas.
Well, that's a. Can I change
Northern
my rating
Chilean.
to a 2?
Oh my gosh!
For the involvement of Chileans.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as of December 11th of 2022, you are able to view this on Netflix. I don't think, Todd, you probably know better than I. At the first of the month, is that the time that Netflix would?
If it was going to
cycle
go,
through
yes, but licensing wise doesn't mean it's automatically done at the end of the month or vice versa. Could be licensed for like 3 months, 6 months, a year.
I will say that I have not come across any articles that say this movie will be leaving by January 1st or whatnot, or December 31st. So hopefully should still be on Netflix if you would like to check it out. And of course, as always, available to rent or purchase on your favorite online store. Any final thoughts on this film before we head out for the evening?
Oh, you just got to give it a go. Like, this is one that if you've not seen it in a long time, please go see it.
Todd?
I don't understand humor.
I will say, check this out, but not on a night when you've had an exhausting day.
Fair.
Or not if you have something with a lot of energy coming up. Because it will tire you out with the amount of times that you laugh, I feel.
And it's not one of those that you can really like just casually like it's not just visual. Like a lot of that humor you have to like hear the build up and everything. Like it is a traditional setup and then punchline situation. So yeah, it's not a background flick.
Could be why Todd hates it.
I don't hate it. It was average to me.
You can't do any editing during it. You got to be paying attention the whole time.
Well, when I watch movies that we're going to talk about on this show, I do not multitask. Unless Dan picked it.
And on that note, that is world famous juggler Greg Larson and Flesh Wound producer Todd. And I'm Ozzy V. And we'll see you next week right here on a new episode of Flesh Wound Farce.